Hello again, everyone. Starting this month on a few detail updates to the lumber yard, and I'll talk a little bit about that and then also some other projects that I anticipate being able to, if not complete, but at least work on this month. So, what you see down here in front of you are some lumber stacks that I'm working on, and what I used to create the lumber are these diamond 32 count matchboxes. They can be found at the dollar store. They were, I don't know, 25, 50 cents a box back in the day. I bought several of them. Obviously, I've cut the match heads off, and I'm just using the shafts of the matches to form the lumber. I would estimate that these things are somewhere between I don't know. They're not quite an eighth of an inch in diameter, maybe a little bit less than that. So pretty good. I don't know, scale 4x4s maybe. But regardless of what that is, they look pretty good as far as HO scale. So what I've done here is I have six of these matchsticks grouped together, and I'm gluing them just with some tacky glue that I'm brushing on. And once they dry, I'll stack probably two or three of them together to put into this lumber shed that I have. And I don't know if you can see back in there, but there are racks that lumber can be stacked on. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on what this is in just a minute here. But there are three bays that can hold lumber, which you can see there. And then there's an empty bay over here that can hold I guess whatever you want to put in there, maybe wrapped lumber and so forth. The racks that the lumber is on come in the kit, and they are like this. And there are grooves on the back of the shed that the vertical piece, you can see where it's not painted on the backside. The vertical piece can get glued to the wall. So three of the bays have those markings on, the fourth bay does not. So, why did I decide that I needed another building for the lumber area? I was looking through just, trying to find some additional buildings that I did not have. And I came across a Walthers, it's called a lumber transload facility, and it has two of these buildings, and it also has a ramp here to load and unload box cars or flat cars or whatever you might have. And it also had a like a small office building, and I'm trying to think what else it had. A couple of other things. But anyway, that kit was around 50 bucks. And I was unsure whether two of the sheds would fit into the area that I wanted. And I also wanted the ramp. And I thought, well, I'll just buy the shed and then I'll make the ramp similar to the one that I made for the intermodal area. So I went ahead and found a good deal on the shed. There's a website called Y2 Play, Y number two and then play, and it has a limited selection of kits and HO materials. I'm not sure if that has rolling stock or not. It's primarily a toy website, but it does have some Walther stuff. So what I have here is called the Machinery Storage Shed by Walthers, and so you get one of these with the lumber racks already in there. And the other thing is that the ramp is on the same sprue as the base of the kit. So they don't advertise the fact that you get a ramp, but because kit is probably half of the lumber transload facility, you go ahead and you get the ramp as well. So that was kind of a bonus, unexpected bonus that I did not think I was going to find in the kit. But long story short, I've got a couple of spurs in the lumber yard, one of which is covered right now with another building, and one of which is just kind of sitting out in the open. So what I thought I would do here is, kind of make a replication of the lumber transload facility. The other details that you get with the kit are a concrete base that you can run tracks through. So obviously, with this kit, I did not get that material, but I'm going to use some of those 5x7 foam sheets that I have and recreate that concrete area around the loading area. So enough about this. I'll come back to it a little bit later on when I have the lumber stacks finished up and glued in. So some other things that I'm going to work on this month are getting the backdrops painted and up. I'm going to paint them sky blue to begin with, and then go ahead and install those and then decide, what the next steps are. So here's the layout room. It's kind of in a mess right now. But what I'm going to do is let me move the passenger station out of the way. In this corner here, where you can see the fence laying right now, I'm going to put a scrapyard in here. And I have a turnout that I bought that's going to go about here where this flat car is right now. The turnout's going to go in there. I'll have a spur coming back this direction towards the corner. And this little shed is going to be the scrapyard depot, if you will. And I'll have room to get maybe one or two cars in here, a gondola and a flat car and such. So not a lot of opportunity for operations other than switching it, but just something to fill up the corner. I was a little bit undecided what to do there. So backdrops, scrapyard, getting the lumber facility kind of back in shape. You can see it's kind of a mess right now too. And then, we'll see where, the last thing is basic ground cover. Over in the town area, I don't have any ground cover over there other than some of the green grass areas and some of the roadways. So I want to go ahead and fill that in over there as well. So anyway, back in a few moments. All right, so there are the lumber stacks in the back of the shed. I've only got 3 of them in there, obviously, but I'm going to go ahead and make some more and put some more lumber up on the racks. But I think that looks pretty good. I'm not sure, once this is on the layout, how much of that will actually be seen. So I may just populate the bottom and the middle rack and not worry about trying to get anything up on the top rack. But you get the idea. Another project I've been working on is creating some corrugated fencing for around my scrapyard. I had this aluminum sheet, if you can see it here. Gosh, and I don't even know when I bought this. It's been years ago now, but I know Hobby Lobby has some of this. It comes in, I think, about a 5x7 sheet of corrugated aluminum, and it's shiny. But what I did was I spray painted the entire thing with this flat gray primer, and then weathered it by getting back at quite a distance and spraying some brown flat spray paint at it. And it kind of gave this rusted mottled effect to it. And what I've done to the backside is that I have taken more matchsticks and I have stained them with this cherry furniture repair marker. I think I got a set of 3 of these at the dollar store as well. There's a cherry and a medium oak and a light oak. And the cherry is actually fairly brown. You can see by the color of the lid. So what I did with the matchsticks is cut the match heads off and then just ran the stain marker down the sides of the sticks, and it does a really good job. And I intentionally, let me turn this over here, intentionally kind of made these haphazardly. I didn't, I wasn't real careful about placement. It's going around the scrapyard, right? So it's going to kind of look a little bit funky. The backside, which is here, will be visible from once you're inside the layout. So what I'm going to do there is occasionally I'm going to run some diagonal bracing along here just for some visual effect. And then, so you'll see the backside immediately close to the edge of the layout, but then the side of the fence that will run in front of the backdrop will be the front side, will be this one here. So, I guess this side faces in towards the center of the scrapyard. So I had cut this into, I guess they're about 5-inch strips. You can see them here, the ones that are individual. And so what I've done is, again, attach the glue. And then I've left the edge space here without a vertical strip. And how that works is you can just take the next section of fence, and I'll get this on video here in a minute. You can lap it over the edge of the previous one, and when you glue it together, it looks like one continuous section of fence. So I've got, I guess, 4 individual strips here, and I've got 3 double strips already put together, 2 there plus the one I was just showing you, and I have 2 more sections of fence here, kind of waiting to see whether I need them. I do have another sheet of this aluminum that is unused that I can go ahead and weather up and make some more fence if I need it. But, it's a pretty doggone cheap way to make corrugated fencing. If you don't like the wooden posts, I'm sure you could use metal posts for this. And I just used tacky glue to attach the fence post to the back of the corrugated sheet, and it works really well. This stuff is very flexible, so if you need to make bends or corners, you can just take the sheet and bend it, and you can go around a corner. You can make a 90-degree bend in here if you need to, very easily. So anyway, that's going to go around the scrapyard. Be back shortly. Okay, so I was at a train show a couple of weeks ago, and I got this right-hand turnout. There was a guy there selling turnouts for $5, so I couldn't very well pass this up. It looks like it may be, it's an Atlas turnout, but it's code 100, and my track is code 83. So I bought some of these transition joiners from code 83 to code 100, and I'm going to use those to connect the turnout into my main line here. And I've been kind of fooling around here with placement, and it looks like, I'm not sure what radius this turnout is, but it looks like if I place it about there, it's going to line up fairly well with my existing track. The divergent piece out here is on a bit of an angle toward the wall, but I've got a piece of flex track that I can attach here and put a slight bend in it to bring it back this direction. And the flex track I have is here as well, so it's going to give me that kind of a configuration, which from here to here looks to be, I don't know, maybe 20 inches or so. Anyway, that's kind of the plan. So I'm going to start by marking the rails where the turnout needs to go, and then I've got a little Dremel here that I'm going to use to cut the rails. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, hopefully this is going to show up okay. I got the track removed, so this is the section that I cut out, and the ballast is in here. So the way I put this ballast in here was with a mixture of 50% Elmer's glue and 50% water. So I have a glue bottle here filled with water, and I'm just going to soak the ballast that is here and let that sit a few minutes, and it will loosen all of that glue up and enable me to scrape that ballast out of there. All right, so I'm just going to let that sit a few minutes, and then we'll come back and move on from there. Okay, so after much finagling and adjusting and cutting and trimming, I've got the turnout in there. It's glued in place now, and I've got weights obviously on the track, waiting for the glue to dry, and then we'll do some final testing. Before I glued it in place, I soldered the connections, and ran a train over the turnout, and it ran pretty well over the turnout. Once it's dry and in place, I may do a little final adjustments with the grinding. The Code 83 to Code 100 rail joiners worked pretty well, but I think, considering the fact that I don't have any ballast under the turnout here, and I had ballast over here, the Code 83 rails were almost the same height as the Code 100 once I put the turnout in place. So I'm not sure how much of an advantage that was for me. I think if you're joining Code 83 to Code 100 directly on a flat surface, they would work well. So would I buy them again? All depends on the situation. I don't expect to need any more, but if I were going to try to connect straight track, two pieces of flex track, Code 83, Code 100 together on a flat surface, I would definitely buy them. I think they would be an advantage. Again, for me, not so much, but I did go ahead and use them, and they worked okay. I'm guessing that if I had tried to use Code 100 joiners, tried to join the rails together without those transition joiners, I may have had a bit more adjusting to do. So all that being said, I'm glad I got them. So anyway, we'll see how this does once the glue is dry, and we'll run some trains across here, various different types of cars, to make sure that we're going to be good to go. When I was originally talking about placing the turnout, I thought that the divergent track here, the spur that's going to go back into the scrapyard, was going to head towards the wall. It's actually heading away from the wall, so I can just put a slight kink in my flex track to get it, to line up correctly, and go back into the scrapyard. Again, as I'm thinking and talking, I don't know if the kink is necessary. I'll probably just run that straight track back in there, and it won't be parallel with the backdrop, but who cares? It'll be in there. It'll be one less kink to worry about. So once this dries and I have the straight spur section in place and down, I'll get about placing that fence that I showed earlier, and so I will come back when I'm at that point. Continuing work on the scrapyard over here. What I'm gonna do today is, first of all, paint the track. I have all of the connections soldered and everything is working fine. I'm going to go ahead and paint the track, and then I do have one of these Caboose Industries ground throws that I'm going to need to put in here as well. But let me just remove that for right now if I can. There we go. And the next thing after I get that done is I was able to find some of this JTT ballast down at Hobby Lobby yesterday, and it was reduced from $4 down to 99 cents. So I was not sure about what kind of ground cover I was going to use back in there, but I think this will work well. It just looks like old dirt, lots of nice brown color to it. Secondly, after I get the track painted, I'm going to install this corrugated fencing, and what I will do there is I've got a drill bit installed that is about the same size as these posts. So I will see where that's going to fit in best. I'll mark where each post is going to go, and then I'll go ahead and drill those out. So going to go ahead and commence with the track painting here. So I will be back once that is complete. So there's the first section of the fence installed. I'll take the camera off the tripod here. So there we go. So first section in, and what I did with as far as marking out where the holes go is I just laid the fence down like you see back in the corner, and then with a permanent marker I just put a dot where each one of the fence posts is, and then drilled a hole into the cork and inserted the fence post in. So I'm going to continue on around, and we'll pick back up when I have all of this in place. So I've got the ballast that I purchased for 99 cents in there as ground cover. Sorry about the shadow of the camera, but the reason the clothespins are on there, those are where the seams are, excuse me, in the fence. And so I've just got those glued and clamped with the clothespins. The one that you see on the left, on the back side of the fence, the fence kind of came apart there, so I had to glue it back together. But anyway, it worked out pretty well as far as having just the right amount of fence to surround the scrapyard. What I have, the gap in the fence back there, is simulating access to the scrapyard for vehicles. So that's why that's back there. Goes off the layout into imaginary land out there. I will probably detail the back side of the fence a bit. What my plan is there is to put some diagonals every so often to make it look like extra bracing. And then I'll probably go ahead and spray that maybe with some of the brown paint to make it look a little bit more weathered, sort of like the front of the fence is. I have a small office building that is going to go just to the left of the entrance, up against the fence. So I've made a change to some of the details on the office building. So that's gluing right now. But I'm going to go ahead and start work on the back of the fence, and we'll come back to that shortly. Oh, just one thing as far as how I laid the ground cover down there. It is ballast, so probably end scale is really fine. I just coated the cork underlayment that I have everywhere with white glue. Just kind of spread a thin coating of white glue there. Went ahead and dropped the ballast into the glue, and then hit it with some alcohol to kind of break the surface tension and let the ballast settle down into the glue. So hopefully that will be enough. If not, I can go over it again with some diluted glue and water mixture. All right, be back shortly. Got the camera off the tripod here. I had to solder a feeder right there. You can see it right in the middle of the shot. I think probably why is that the I forget what these are called, but anyway, the spade or whatever this piece of track is that makes contact with the rail was not tight enough against the rail to provide contact on that one side there. So I've got that soldered in, got it wired into the layout, and everything is working fine. So I can get about one gondola back in there. Let me show you how that looks. Got a couple of engines and a gondola headed back in there. So there's a couple of inches to the right of the car there before it hits the bumper. So maybe one of those, maybe a short 40-foot
gondola as well would fit in there, but I don't know. It takes up the space in that corner, and it gives me another location to switch. So I'm happy with it. The fence turned out really well. I still haven't done anything on the backside yet. So I'm going to get to that, and then I got to put some foliage and stuff up against the fence, and so I'm going to work on that next, and I will be back shortly. Starting to install the backdrops. I'll go into a little bit more detail about them in a little while, but what I'm doing here to bridge the window is I'm putting a nailing board. It's a 1x2 on the outside of the trim on either side of the window. And I'm going to bridge the window with the backdrop. I don't want to nail into the window frame, so hence the nailing flanges. But what I will do here after it bridges the window is I'm just going to let it go back naturally against the wall and nail it there. So I've got an 8-foot piece that I'm going to put in here. So I will get that up and show you what it looks like. Well, here's the backdrop installed. First 8-foot piece. It's painted with some of that mistake paint that I've talked about before. And what that is, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards, I'm sure in the paint area they all have a shelf with mistake paint. So what that is are gallons of paint that people have custom tinted, and when they got home and put it on the wall, they didn't like the color. So I think when I bought this, it's been years ago now, I probably paid about $5 or $6 for it. I was over at Lowe's the other day, and the mistake paint is now selling for about 20 bucks a gallon, but still about half price, maybe less than half price of a custom mix. So the other thing that Lowe's will do, and I'm not sure about the other big box stores, but Lowe's will actually tint mistake paint for you for free to get it a little bit closer to the color you want. So I was lucky enough to get this one as is. And anyway, it's in. That's an 8-foot piece. What I'm going to do is put in all of the 8-foot long sections that I can fit in here. So I've got one that I'm going to start in the corner back there and come across the wall. That'll be nailed directly to the wall. Once I get around to the corner here, I'll have to put those nailing blocks on either side of the door casing for the closet. So an 8-foot piece there is going to bring me just, I think, to the right edge of the closet framing. So I'm going to get those two in next, and then we'll have to get into piecing. The only place that I'm going to have trouble is back here where the light switch is. The top of the backdrop is going to come to about here. So what I may do over here is try and figure out if I can either, I hate to move the light switch. I've done that before. Obviously not a big deal, but it leaves a hole in the wall. It'll be covered by the backdrop, but it's just more time than I guess I want to spend on it right now. So I may try and figure out some kind of a lift out section here, because I'm not sure I want to nail something over the door. So lots of figuring to do, but that's for a little ways down the road. All right, so I've got 3 full-sized, full-length sheets up, and so here's my comment on square corners versus round corners. Mine are square, obviously, as you can see. Over here, it would have been very difficult for me to get a round corner in there, considering how close these sidings are to the backdrop. Maybe I should have planned a little better, but I'm not going to tear this out just for that for that issue. I had a layout 4 houses ago, where I actually didn't have backdrops, but I painted the wall blue, and then just painted painted the backdrop by hand. So that one had square corners, and what I was able to do was kind of camouflage them, which is what I'll plan to do over here. Is you know, maybe put a hill or something in there with some trees, you know, and I think once that's in and the backdrop is painted, I don't think the corners will be that noticeable. And beside the fact, sorry about that, I had to sit down here. I'm probably going to be the only one in here 90% of the time, if not more than 90% of the time. So that one corner, I don't know if you can tell, looks a little rough right now. I had attached the one going across the front of the closet first, and then when I tried to butt this backdrop piece against it, the wall is not square over there. It slopes backwards away from the table, so I had a big gap. When I tried, I had the, let me start over. I had the one that is running left to right here. I had it pushed into the corner against the wall, and I was going to butt this one up against it. However, when I did that, there was about pretty close to 3/8 of an inch gap from the bottom of the backdrop to the top when I was trying to butt the ends up. So what I had to do was remove the backdrop piece that runs across the closet, run this one that is on the left wall here into the corner, and then butt this one up against it. So I eliminated my need to try and fill a 3/8 inch gap there. You can see where there is a gap under the backdrop there, running left to right or right to left. There's a gap running both ways. I believe that section of the table may have sunk a little bit, so I'm probably going to make an adjustment there and bring it up flush, because I don't want to have a gap to deal with. So I still haven't decided what I'm going to do here yet. An 8-foot piece of backdrop crosses the light switch and comes about 2 to 3 inches short of the door casing. So I think what I'm going to do is cut a piece that ends up being maybe an inch or two to the right of the light switch, and then build a kind of a bump out, if you will, that comes out 1.5 inches or so, enough to clear the light switch, and then crosses the door, and it will fit in, you know, across the door frame. Basically, it'll be between the door frame and the wall on the left side, and then come across and return on the right side of the light switch. So I got to go back to the garage, and I got to do some cutting. Got to do some measuring here to figure out exactly how long these pieces need to be. I'm going to have to also check on how plumb this corner is over here to know which backdrop piece goes in first, and then once I figure that out, I'll know how to measure. I can tell right now there's a bump. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera at the bottom of that, where the the train table meets the corner. There's kind of a bump in towards the table and out away from the table as it goes up the wall. So it's probably going to be putting this piece in first over here. I'll have a gap probably over there, and I may have to put a nailing flange and bump that corner out just a bit in order to get it nailed in. So that's what I'm going to work on next, is this section here. All right, so I've got all the backdrops in, at least all that I'm going to do today. So down the back wall, into the corner. Sorry about the movement. Across the back wall, into the corner, across the closet, and up the wall next to the yard, to the corner. So this is all I'm going to install for today, and let me explain why. Sorry about that rapid movement there. The light switch. I think I've come up with a solution for this. I have found a remote controlled light socket that I'm going to get. I've actually already ordered it. And so what that will allow me to do is to leave the switch on all the time. And the remote light socket, well, I'm not going to shine the camera up into the light. I'll screw in my LED light that I have up in the ceiling into the remote light socket, and then I'll be able to turn the light off and on remotely. I'll just Velcro the remote over onto the wall here somewhere so it won't get lost, and that will be my light switch. What I will do is, for the switch itself, obviously it protrudes out a bit. I'm going to put in some 1x2s like this, one here, one over here, and then one on the other side of the door, which I just have sitting in there right now, and bridge the light switch so that it's got room to move behind the backdrop if need be. I don't know why we would need it to, but it will if needed. So the other problem I've got a task figure out is, how do I span the door? So what I think I may do is 8 feet. You can see the 96 measurement right there. That's where that backdrop panel is going to end. So my thought is to go ahead and end it there. It'll span the light switch. I'll have another vertical here at 96 and then another one right next to it, you know, to keep the backdrops even. And I may, see how it looks. If I bring this in very close here and very close on the other side, I may be able to friction fit this piece of backdrop over the door so that it can be easily removed. So that's what I'm going to try, and don't know if that's going to work, but at least it will get me across the door and have the backdrop at the same position away from the wall as the one that's spanning the light switch. So my light switch, my remote control switch, is not going to be here until sometime between Wednesday and Friday of this coming week. So I'll have to wait until then to deal with this last section of backdrop. My next task is to go ahead and spackle the seams around all the backdrops. I'm pleased with how it made it up. It did really well. So there's going to be minimal spackling, I think. I had over here, this looks like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre with all these holes in the wall. I had to attach and remove this thing 2 or 3 times to get it adjusted right. But I think with a little sanding and a little spackling, we should be good to go there. And again, I think I mentioned about lifting the table up there. So a couple of things yet to do, but I'm going to start spackling next. So backdrops are in and painted. I've got some clouds up there. Still have some work to do on this final backdrop here, waiting on my remote light switch to arrive. I think that's going to do it for this update. Appreciate everyone's comments, likes, and subscriptions. Talk to you soon.